Sex estimation from the skull takes a slightly different form than that on the pelvis. On the pelvis, we're looking primarily at traits that facilitate childbirth. On the skull, we're looking much more at traits that are secondary sex characteristics for males that females don't exhibit. So here we have a female skull, very slight, very gracile, compared to our male skull that I'm going to bring over here, and you can see how much larger overall, much bigger muscle markings. So I'm actually going to start with the male skull here. And the first feature we're going to talk about is the superciliary arch. Remember, that's the brow ridges. So in males, they're going to have very large, very projecting brow ridges. So if you see from the side angle here, we've got that projection. Whereas on our female, we really don't have much of those superciliary arches. Now, the second feature is right around the eyes as well, but it's a feature that you really have to feel. You can't really see it. And it's what we call the supraorbital margin. So orbit, eye orbit, supra above, and the margin's going to be the edge from the inside of the eye orbit to the outside right here. So it's going to be this rounded, smooth edge in a male, where in a female, when we run our finger across there, it's going to be a much sharper edge. So again, that's something you have to feel. You really can't see it. Now, also on the side here, we have the mastoid process, and you should be able to see between our female here how small her mastoid is versus how really large this male mastoid is. Now, I specifically picked these skulls so that you could see kind of the extremes. Be aware that in general, the male mastoid isn't going to be that large and the female isn't going to be that small. So these are the extremes, that strong male and strong female. Because remember, we use a 5-point scale for this. So we also have that female question mark and male question mark, where it's leaning that way, but it's not huge like this one is. Moving to the back of the skull, we've got the nuchal lines that we're going to see much more prevalently in males, along with that center protrusion, that external occipital protuberance. So here on the back, you should be able to see those nuchal lines. And again, this is something that's much easier to feel than to see. So if I run my finger across here, I feel a lot of thickenings for those muscle attachments. Whereas when I look at my female here, it's much more slight. She doesn't have nearly the muscle attachments on the back of her skull and the occipital as the male does. So the male's going to have that protruding occipital, external occipital protuberance and nuchal lines, whereas the female is not. If we move now to the mandibles, so I'll get the skulls out of the way. Here we have our female and our male mandible. What you should notice here is on the male, the mental protuberance comes out into a square. So that protuberance comes forward, and then we kind of have 2 points with a flattening off across the front. So if you look here, you can kind of see those 2 points and it flattens off across the front. Whereas in our female here, we're going to come to that one single point in the front center. Now, sometimes this will also just be a more rounded mandible, where it actually doesn't come to a single point, but doesn't come to 2 points either. It just kind of rounds all the way across. Last feature on the mandible is that gonial angle right here. And on the females, that gonial angle is going to come straight down. From the ascending ramus down to that angle, it's just going to be kind of a straight line. Whereas on our males, it's going to be what we call everted. So here you should be able to see how instead of coming straight down, it flares out, okay, right there. So that's what we call eversion of the gonial angle. We're going to see that in males and not in females. Okay, so just kind of to recap, we've got various skull features on the female skull and the male skull. In general, the male features are going to be larger and the female features are going to be smaller when we're looking at skull traits. If you haven't yet watched the video on the pelvis sex estimation, make sure you don't forget to watch that as well, as we will cover both skull and pelvis features in class.